So at the end of the day, selling the carrier that is good for the client, but also the carrier that's good for you too, because you're an agent and you're in business and you have to stay in business. The last thing I want to talk about, especially for someone who's building a team, why would I promote specific carriers over another? I think this is big, and I want to spend a little bit of time here as we're kind of landing the plane. Some of this is going to go over a lot of people's head, but if you've been here for a while, you'll understand. So if you got into IULs and you started watching trainings and videos, there's like what Josh and I call like the IUL zealots. Like there's people out there who go, it has to be this way every single time, no matter what, or you're doing a disservice to the client. Like it has to be increasing, it has to be level, it has to be this company, it has to be that company. If you don't do max fund every single time, you're doing a disservice to the client. And that is not true. It's all about how you explain it to the client, making it super clear about how they're going to be funding their policy. So a couple different caveats here. So there are 4 carriers that our team really is focused on. Mutual of Omaha, Americo, National Life Group, and F&G. Those are the 4 carriers on the IUL side that we're trying to get as much of our business condensed inside of for a handful of reasons. There's a lot of companies that have IULs, but honestly, the underwriting's about the same with most of the big carriers. So if you're going to do big cases, my suggestion is everyone on here, if you're going to do big cases, all your big cases should go to the same company. This is my personal opinion. There's not really much of a reason to be spreading it out. The reason that we have so many carriers on the final expense and mortgage protection side is because underwriting comes into play so much. You're trying to get them some coverage. So you've got policies here and there and all over the place. But IULs, they got to be in pretty decent health. Like they got to be able to at least qualify for a term policy to get an IUL anyways. So if they can qualify for one IUL, most of the time they could qualify for any IUL. There's obviously some wiggle room. So I'll make sure that I give you some of the caveats there. But typically, what you're looking at is their age. So if someone's 50 and they want to put in more than 10 times their age. So somebody who's 50 wants to put in over 500 a month. 40 wants to put in over 400 a month. 60 wants to put in over 600 a month. Like that's when you start getting into some of the bigger carriers. Now, that's not a hard and fast rule. Sometimes you can still jam a 50-year-old who wants to put 500 a month inside of Mutual of Omaha policy. But for the most part, the death benefit ends up getting too high and it maxes out and they can't put in that much. So couple rule of thumb, like we want to stay in business. That's really important as well. And NLG and F&G have longer underwriting processes. Americo and Mutual of Omaha have instant decision. Americo, 99.9% of the time, instant decision. Mutual of Omaha, probably 80 to 90% of the time, instant decision, approved, denied, issued policy, client pays, you get paid. If they pay, on the issue date, you get paid within 48 hours. Like it's quick. So we got to stay in business, number one. Number two, we need to make sure that the client's getting covered. And then we also need to make sure that the client understands, how the policy is structured and how it works. So I'll give a couple of caveats. So you guys have heard, minimum death benefit, maximum cash value, all of that. Many people don't know that you can do that on the Mutual of Omaha IULE policy. You just have to have a membership to what's called WinFlex. So you can't just go in and do the Easy Solve option. Easy Solve is just basically it's protection focus, or it's kind of technically it's more of a blended focus. It's like a 50-50, the Easy Solve is. And you have to go into WinFlex, you have to run an illustration, you have to max fund it, DocuSign it, attach it to the application. That, even though there's that extra step there, if I can get a policy to fit inside the parameters of an IULE max funded, I'm going to do that every single time over jumping to one of these larger carriers like NLG or F&G. So I had a client the other day who was like a 52-year-old smoker. So smokers obviously going to double the rate. He said he could put in 800 a month. And if he was a non-smoker, he wouldn't have been able to fit that 800 a month inside the IULE. But because he was a smoker, it jacked up his cost of insurance. And for $300,000 or $250, whatever it was like $779 a month and I was able to go ahead and put that one through, and it was max funded. So I was able to help him out, and I was able to get him approved, get paid quickly. So if I can fit it inside of the parameters of Mutual of Omaha's death benefit, max funded, I'm going to do that every single time if it's someone who really cares about max funding their policy day one. Now, here's a caveat. You're going to find some people, you're going to find a lot of people that are going to say, I can put in $100 now, I can put in $200 now, but a year from now, I'd like to put in $400 a month. A year from now, I'd like to double what I put in. This is the perfect candidate for an Americo IUL. This is the perfect candidate. Now, some of y'all don't know this, and some of you do. So with National Life Group, you can go in and you can go on the app and you can like add money whenever you want into your policy. With Americo, you can actually do the same thing, but you have to call it in. So when you go to run an Americo illustration, so I'm just going to pull this up here really quickly. And of course, I forgot, I got to put the code in. So bear with me here for a moment. Did this earlier too and forgot to be logged in. But what you're going to be looking for is you're going to be looking for something inside of the illustration called the guideline level premium. And this has helped me so much with selling. So in the last week, I have sold, I did, I don't know, 30, I don't know even what the leaderboard said. It was somewhere between 30 and 40, and like 25 of it was Americo Simplified Issue IUL. So the way that it's been sold, I'll go 50-year-old Americo IUL. So I get on with the 50-year-old, pretty modest job, makes $3,000 a month, and he says, I can put in $100 a month. Okay, that's $1,200 a year. He's going to get $80,617 in insurance. So I'm going to open up this illustration here. All right, so I'm going to find guideline. So guideline level premium. Probably a lot of y'all haven't ever seen this before. So top right corner, you see $100 a month. Right here, you see guideline level premium, which is $22.68. So when he does $100 a month, what he's doing is he's committing that the absolute minimum, his minimum is $100 a month. This is the minimum that I will let the company auto debit out of my account. And for doing that, I'm going to have $80,000 worth of coverage. And when we go to look at the actual illustration, you'll see here $1,200 going in year one, about $625 in accumulated value. So the Americo and the Moo Easy Solve are really a blended focus. About half of what you're putting in is going towards the cost of insurance, and half is going towards the cash value. So what I'm showing them is this illustration is what your policy could look like if everything goes right, if you minimally fund it with $100 a month. That's your floor. The ceiling is $22.68 per year. So that means that you can add in almost an extra $100 a month. So that would be an additional about $1,100 a year that you could add in. So, hey, you could call up Americo, and if you're doing your $100 a month and you randomly have $300 extra, you can throw it in there. You get $50, throw it in there. You get a tax return for $1,000, throw it in there. As long as you don't go over $22.68 for the year. Okay. So I've had people where I've got them started, they go $300 a month, and they want to go up to $600. And I'm just very clear with them. Like, hey, we are not max funding this policy. We are getting you started because you said that you're going to add more later. So we're going to do an annual review at the end of the year, and we're going to talk about you continuing to fund this policy and overfund it. Because the cool thing is, if they're committing to their $1,200 a year, the $100 a month, and they go put in $500, 100% of that goes towards the cash value. 100%. Any extra money above their minimum premium here goes towards the cash value. So what's happening is that illustration is actually going to look cooler, because what you saw was $625 in cash value. Well, if you've got $625 in cash value here, but then you're putting in your $100 a month, but then you actually go up to the max fund at $22.68. Like, this is really going to look closer to $1,800 by the time that, you're basically doing $1,800 a year instead of $625 a year. So these numbers are going to look a lot cooler and grow a lot faster if you max fund it. But it allows somebody to start off at a lower premium and increase later, as opposed to I could take this same $100. I could go over to National Life Group. I could go over to F&G. I could max fund the policy. My commission's obviously going to get, cut quite a bit because I'm max funding it. And it's going to take 3-4 weeks to issue. And the client, because we're max funding it, they can't put another dime in. Max fund means we are putting the most amount in per year for the amount of insurance we're getting. We're locking that in. We can't get more insurance. That's it. And in order to put more in, you'd have to get another policy. We'd have to structure it differently. So when you do it this way, it allows people to get started and allows them to kind of max fund it on their own time. Now, if you just sell someone an Americo policy and you don't explain that, and you tell them, hey, you're going to be a millionaire, that is not the right way to do it. But if you get on with somebody and you say, hey, we're getting you started here. This is the floor. This is the ceiling. You told me you're going to hit the ceiling. I'm going to check in with you. And if you got like Lead Champ Pro and stuff, you can create built-in check-ins with these people once a year. You can schedule text messages to check in with them to make sure they're going to do what they said they're going to do. And at the end of the day, if I explain that to them, I can go to bed and sleep well at night, knowing that I helped them, but also put myself in a better position as an agent because I was able to instantly issue something and keep the lights on in my business. So if I can put things like someone who's starter policy is what I call it. All my starter policies, Americo. Somebody who they want a max funded IUL, but they can fit inside the parameters of a Mutual of Omaha IULE. I'm going there every time. And anything above that, my personal preference, I'm leaning towards is National Life Group. There are some different scenarios where if you're going to go fully underwritten anyways, you might as well go F&G because the comp's higher. And if you're getting there, do a presentation assistance with a manager and they'll tell you what carrier to write so you don't have to worry about making that decision yourself. But just trust me that at the end of the day, like keeping the lights on is very important in your business. As long as you're making sure the client understands how the policy works, how it's funded, et cetera, you can go to bed and sleep well at night. And that's why my deposits have been well over 20,000 with Americo this week. All policies that were written in the last 7 days. I have an NLG policy that I wrote for 21 grand last week that I probably won't get paid on for 6 weeks. So at the end of the day, selling the carrier that is good for the client, but also the carrier that's good for you too, because you're an agent and you're in business and you have to stay in business as long as you make sure the client knows exactly what's happening. So then at the end of the call, I get on with the client and I go, hey, listen, this is how we structured this, and we structured it for a very specific way. So if any other agent calls you and tells you that I screwed you over, I structured it incorrectly, what are you going to tell them? I'm going to tell them to F off. Like whatever they're going to tell, like I'm going to tell them, I'm going to hang up on them. It's like, in Lead Champ, you can write down the reason why they got the policy and it will text it to them, email it to them. I'll write out a little paragraph. I'll spend a few extra minutes explaining why we structured it the way that we structured it. So if anybody else calls to be like, well, why did you do that? Well, the reason we did that is because they said they're going to add more money later. They said their income's going to increase. They said they're going to go from 50 a month to 100 a month or 200 to 400. That's why we did it that way. So all these things in mind, at the end of the day, do calls with your manager, split the commission, learn it. It's worth it to split the commission. I would give away half my commissions in the beginning of my career if I could have learned this sooner. It took me 4 years to get into it. If I would have given away 70% of my commissions if I could have learned this sooner, for all the handful of different reasons. So yeah, at the end of the day, we've got a lot of different resources that are coming for you guys. New IUL bootcamp is coming shortly, which we're really excited about. And it's going to be a great resource for you. A lot of new campaigns with Lead Champ Pro. If you're not using Lead Champ Pro, I couldn't be doing the amount of appointments I'm doing without it. At the end of the day, we've got cool tools, automations, we've got leads, we've got great training, education. We're continuing to make it better and better and better. You don't have to know everything. All you have to know is, can I call the person and say, you filled this out, let's set up an appointment? Can I go through 10 minutes explaining what is an IUL, the basic structures of how it works, the couple different structures, figure out what their budget is, set up a second call with a manager, split a commission, do that 5 to 10 times, and then be off to the races to be able to help other people with IULs. Yes, you absolutely can do that. And if you can't do that, then that's okay. You know, it's not a good fit. We're looking for people. We're looking for higher quality agents. We're looking for people to become higher quality agents. What's the cliche in sales and network marketing? We're not looking to motivate people. We're looking for motivated people. There it is. We're looking for motivated people who want to take the time to learn this stuff. And if you're a motivated person, I'll answer the phone all day long. I will go out of my way to answer your text messages, phone calls, etc. But just in case, got all those calendar links for you to make sure that you can guarantee the time is available. So I hope this helps. Hope you guys got something out of this. We're going to continue to make the resources even better.